Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be analyzing negotiation concepts shown in the film Inglorious Bastards. I chose this movie because a lot of its scenes are built almost entirely around dialogue and tension, which make them really strong examples of negotiation in action films. Even though the scenes and situations in the movie are extreme, like interrogations and wartime deals, the same negotiation principles still apply to these situations, just like everyday situations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down a few key scenes, explain what the negotiations are really about, and connect them to concepts like power, information, BATNA, and ZOPA. Alrighty, so what is negotiation? Reaching agreement between parties, shared conflicting interests, strategy, communication, and power. So negotiation is it's basically the process where two or more parties try to reach an agreement, even though they don't fully agree with each other. Usually both sides have some shared interests, but also conflicting ones, and that's what creates a need for negotiation. It's not just about what people say, it's also what strategies are involved, how much information you reveal, and how much power each side has. And a lot of the time, the outcome depends on things like who has better alternatives, who controls the conversation, and who can stay calm under pressure. All right, so some key concepts here would be power imbalance, information asymmetry, BATNA, ZOPA, and emotional control. And for this presentation, I'll be focusing on a few of these negotiating concepts. Power imbalance is like when one side has significantly more control than the other. Information asymmetry is when one side knows more and uses that to their advantage. BATNA stands for best alternative to a negotiated agreement, which basically means your backup plan it's your backup plan if the negotiation fails. ZOPA is the zone of possible agreement, or the range of which both sides could realistically reach a deal. And finally, emotional control is very important because losing control can weaken your position or even expose you, which is shown in a couple scenes here in this movie. All right, we're going to start off with the farmhouse scene. What is being negotiated here? So Hans Landa, he is a high-ranking German officer. He hunts enemies of the states, or whatever he wants to call that. He wants information from this farmer here, and the farmer wants to protect his family, and it's kind of like a life or death situation here for the farmer. So, or just even, yeah. So the negotiation is essentially between giving up information or protecting lives, which makes it extremely high stakes. So essentially, Hans Landa gives him the option: tell me where the Jews are, or I'll kill you and your family, or if you tell me, I'll leave you and your family alone. So it's pretty high stakes here. Even though Hans starts off polite, it quickly does become clear that it's a very intense and one-sided negotiation. So the power, BATNA, and ZOPA here will be Landa definitely has total authority in this situation, and the farmer has absolutely no leverage. He's got weak BATNA and he's got no ZOPA at all. So this scene clearly shows a power imbalance. Landa has authority while the farmer has almost no leverage. We look at BATNA, the farmer's situation is very weak, and if he refuses to cooperate, Landa could just search the house or use force anyways. So his alternative is basically worse than cooperating with him. Landa, on the other hand, has a strong BATNA because he has multiple ways to get what he wants. When it comes to ZOPA, there really isn't one. The farmer wants to protect the family, and Landa wants to find them. So there's no overlap between the goals. So no real agreement is really possible. And because of that, the outcome is basically controlled by Landa from the beginning. So the strategy and pressure, yes, there was lots of silence and slow pacing. There was a language switch, which was very important, and information control. So Hans Landa obviously knows more than the farmer thinks. He also he tries to embarrass the farmer by pulling out his much larger pipe during the scene, just to show him he's got more than the farmer does. And the silence and slow pacing definitely make things a lot more tense. And when you're silent, it kind of forces the other person to talk more or think a little bit deeper. So what makes Landa effective is the way that he uses psychological pressure instead of force. He speaks slowly, uses long pauses, and makes the farmer uncomfortable through silence. This is important because silence in a negotiation often pressures the other person to revealing more than they want to, as I had just said. And one of the smartest tactics he uses is switching from French to English so the hidden family can't understand him. And that gives him control over the flow of information and lets him speak freely without being overheard. Overall, he controls the space, the tone, and the conversation, which allows him to control the negotiation. All right, so we're going to be talking about the restaurant and tavern scenes now. So, the restaurant is more of an emotional control scene. So essentially, the girl from the beginning who survived that encounter with Hans Landa is hiding out in France, just pretending she is a owner of a cinema, or I guess she is an owner of a cinema. Anyways, she ends up having to have dinner with Hans Landa, and this negotiation here is quick. It's more just her trying not to let Hans find out that she is that Jewish girl from the beginning of the movie. And what Hans does here is he gives Shoshana, I believe her name is, gives her a dessert at the end of the meal, which has, I believe, yes, it has like pig lard. So you cannot have that mixed with cream product as a Jewish person, because it wouldn't be kosher. So it really just forces her to give up her religion in that moment to save herself.
Landa also asks the question if there is a black man working at the cinema, which she says yes. He seems okay with that. However, he has to explain higher-ups might not be okay with it. So she unfortunately has to deal with the cinema herself.
In the negotiation, the tavern scene, it's based on bluffing. A British officer is pretending to be German, and everything definitely depends on maintaining that identity. At first, there is a possible Zopa where both sides could just continue talking and leave peacefully, but he unfortunately makes a small cultural mistake, which he exposes a hand gesture, which would be that moment where he asks for 3 glasses in German, so 3 Gläser. He says that, he puts his hand up, and he's holding, unfortunately, his hand in the way that the more Western societies would show that symbol of 3. In Germany, it's often the symbol of 3 would be starting from your thumb to your middle finger, rather than the middle 3 fingers in your hand. So that's just kind of gave away his position there. After that, the negotiation breaks down and escalates into violence, and it shows how small mistakes can have huge consequences. Anyways, we're going to be talking about the final deal scene, which I think is a very successful negotiation. So this one goes between Landa and Aldo Reina. It's about a deal for immunity in exchange of value. So in the final scene between Hans Landa and Aldo Reina is a true negotiation where both sides actually make a deal here. Here, Landa realizes that Germany is losing the war, so he changes his strategy. What's being negotiated here is his future. He offers to help the Allies in exchange for immunity, safety, and recognition as a hero. At the same time, the Allies want the mission to succeed, so they benefit from his cooperation. And unlike the farmhouse scene, both sides have something to gain here, which makes the deal possible. So the Landa's Batna is losing the war, and the Allies' Batna is a risky mission, and it's clear that Zopa exists. So Landa's Batna is weak because if he doesn't make a deal, he'll likely lose the war, and he will also face punishment afterwards. And the Allies also have a risky situation, so accepting his help improves their chances. And because both sides benefit from this, there's a clear Zopa. And it's a range where both sides can agree on. And that's why this negotiation results in an agreement, unlike the earlier scenes.
Hans also uses some leverage here by saying that if he does make the call, sure, they will kill some Germans, but they will not kill Hitler, Hermann, Goebbels, or Heinrich, which they need all four to win the war, is what he discusses here. There's also a funny manipulation tactic that Hans uses here. He starts off by talking about his nickname, which he does not like, and how the other guy might not like his nickname, the guy on the left. He's called the Little Man, and it's surprising to him because the other guy is called Apache.
All right, so my final takeaways. Some negotiations fail, some succeed. Power, info, and alternatives decide on a lot of these negotiations. So when you compare all the scenes, you can see that not all negotiations are the same. In the farmhouse scene, there's no possible agreement, so it becomes one-sided. And in the tavern, the negotiation fails because of mistakes. But in the final scene, both sides benefit, so the deal is reached. Until they kind of betray him. I hope you've watched a movie. And overall, these examples show that negotiation outcomes depend on power, information, and emotional control, and whether Zopa actually really exists in all these situations. All right, well, thanks for watching the presentation, guys, and I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, okay, well, you have a good one. Ciao.